From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
Well, good evening, everybody, from the Rutherford County Election Commission offices on the square here in downtown Murfreesboro. It is Election Day, Super Tuesday, and we've got some totals to come in. This is brought to you by lots of fine folks, and that includes Toots Good Food and Fun, Wilson Bank and Trust, along with McCabe Vision Center and Jennings and Ayers Funeral Home. So as we have a couple of moments right before we get the first totals, we're going to check in with some of those sponsors and be right back to the Rutherford County Election Commission. Again, we're expecting, as the polls have just closed about 8 minutes ago, we expect to get some of those totals coming in here very, very soon. So stay tuned. We'll be right back as you continue to listen here to News Radio WGNS and our coverage of Campaign 2024.
Hi, this is Wade Hayes of Toots Restaurants. My personal favorite menu item is our Danish baby back ribs. They're fall off the bone tender, very lean, got a delicious homemade sauce we put on it, and there's nobody serving ribs like these anywhere in Middle Tennessee.
Good food and fun.
Toots, good food and fun since 1985.
At Toots Restaurants, our quality has not changed.
Our portions have not changed.
Our products have not changed.
Good food and fun.
Hello, this is Lenny Farmer with Jennings and Ayers Funeral Home. Often when a man or woman finish pre-planning their funerals with me, I hear, we should have done this 10 years ago, or I thought about doing this years ago, but just never got around to it. Seems that we often put off the inevitable for ourselves. As one wise pastor put it, it's never too late to do what's right. Why not mark down on your calendar to call me to talk about your funeral needs at 615-893-2422. It's never too late.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
This is Lenny Farmer with Jennings and Ayers Funeral Home. Did you know that you can plan your funeral in advance without actually paying for your funeral in advance? In other words, if it's not a convenient time to pay for your funeral, you can still choose your funeral items and we'll file them away for later. Let's consider that together. You make the decisions for yourself, and when that financial window opens up, it becomes an easier decision. Call me at 615-893-2422 and let's plan together.
From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
Welcome back here to the Rutherford County Election Commission. Of course, we're trying something new, and with all new things, sometimes those work out well. Sometimes we have to troubleshoot, so we're doing a little bit of that, but I think we have much better internet service here now for you as we continue our coverage. Again, brought to you by McCabe Vision Center, Wilson Bank and Trust, as well as Toots Good Food and Fun, and our friends at Jennings and Ayers Funeral Home. So let's take you to at least what we know so far, and that's not much, but we're going to be getting some news here in a moment. Thought we would bring up some of the sources that we'll be using tonight to give you the results. This from the Rutherford County Election Commission, and of course they've got 30 voting centers to report. We'll be able to give you the summary here as well as we go through the night once we have some numbers. And of course, you've got the presidential preference primary going on as well for both Republican and Democrat. And also one big county race that we're keeping a very close eye on, and that is the race between incumbent assessor of property Rob Mitchell and challenger Virgil Gammon So that is one of our statewide, or countywide rather, contested races that we're watching here this evening. Also, there are 2 school board, make that 3 school board seats that are contested here. We have one that is uncontested, Claire Maxwell in Zone 5 for the school board. But Stan Vaught is running against Nicholas Rourke rather, and that is going on in Zone 2, so we'll watch that. That's the seat of Coy Young, who has decided not to run for re-election. We also have Caleb Tidwell running against Tim Holden in Zone 3. Caleb Tidwell won that seat. Tim Holden was appointed to that seat before Caleb finished or won the election there, and now up for re-election, and Tim running against him there. And in School Board Zone 6, that is the seat right now that is being our chairman has decided not to run for re-election there, and that's going to be Butch Vaughn running against Chase Williams for that seat. Now, if you noticed when you voted today, you know there were no candidates declared in the city of Murfreesboro School Board for either the Republican or the Democratic side of things, and those, honestly, are going to be running as independents come the next election. All right, and you've got all of your delegates for both sides. Really, on the Democratic side of things, you've got delegates to choose. You could choose President Biden if you preferred. There were no candidates for assessor of property or road board or any of the school board seats, with the exception of Zone 3. Tiffany Fee will be running against, in Zone 3, the winner of the Caleb Tidwell Tim Holden seat. So that's what we've got for you here, and looks like we've got our first numbers. So let's kind of just stay right here where we are, and we'll do a quick refresh and bring you that information here as we've just got this in. Okay, so we'll start at the top. And this understanding is early voting. This is early voting information. Okay, early voting here. And let's go to the assessor of property race, because that is one that everybody has kind of a close interest in and wants to see what is going to happen there in that one. Let me get my little brush out here so I can kind of highlight this race for you. Here is the race that we're watching right here. So, assessor of property, if you're watching along. Rob Mitchell is the incumbent. He has 5,873 votes. That's 65.97% of the vote. Okay? Right here in this race, if you're watching along. If you're listening on WGNSradio.com, Virgil Gammon with 3,007. All right, so there you go. That is the assessor of property early voting information that we have for you there. As we move on here, working with some new technology here to try to highlight things. Now let's go to our school board races. Stan Vaught with 616 early votes. That's 68.5%. Nicholas Rourke with 281, or 31% of the vote. That is here in school board zone 2. Moving over to school board zone 3. Caleb Tidwell with 1,064 votes. That's 64.6%. To Tim Holden's 579 votes. That's 35.15%. School Board Zone 6, Butch Vaughn has a commanding lead over Chase Williams here in the early voting. 76.68% of the early vote in, and Butch Vaughn leads after the early voting totals have been released. Chase Williams with 306 votes, or 23%. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on the delegates, and this is the other race that I really didn't get a chance to talk to you much about, and we want to make sure that we look at this. So question 1, Town of Smyrna. This has to do with the referendum in Smyrna, and that referendum today if you were in Smyrna, you had a chance to look. And this is questioning. The question is, shall the charter of the town of Smyrna be amended in accordance with ordinance number 23-39 related to Article 9, Town Court, to repeal the General Sessions jurisdiction of the Town Municipal Court over criminal offenses, and to authorize the appointment of the town judge and the town clerk position upon completion of the current term. So, right now, the vote is 1,817 no and 629 yes. That is about 74% to 25.7%. So that's how the early voting looks on question 1 in the referendum in Smyrna. So with that, we'll come back here full screen and kind of let you know the totals. You can find a link to all of this at WGNSradio.com if you want to try to check it out there. And, of course, we'll have coverage throughout the evening. So we're just really getting started. Hopefully the boxes will be coming in here pretty quickly, and we'll be able to get you that information. So stay tuned. Early voting, we'll go back over that here in just a moment. You're listening to Campaign 2024 coverage here on News Radio, WGNS, and Big G TV.
Dr. Craig McCabe, the eye doctor you hear on the radio.
So tell us what it was like to go through the cataract surgery.
Oh, it wasn't bad at all. There was no soreness, no hurting. They made you feel comfortable. I mean, I can see things that I couldn't see clearly before. It's absolutely wonderful. I do it again. I love it.
McCabe Vision Center on Heritage Park Drive, just off Memorial behind SunTrust Bank.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Here's Dr. Craig McCabe at McCabe Vision Center.
Tell us what your vision was like before you had the cataract surgery done.
My eyes were just really out of whack, and I do a lot of hand embroidery. I got to the point where I couldn't even do my embroidery.
Are you now able to doing your embroidery?
Oh, yeah, I can go back and do what I was doing 30 years ago.
McCabe Vision Center on Heritage Park Drive behind SunTrust Bank.
Hey, I'm Jack Hayes, here with my dad Nick and my granddad Pops.
Don't feel like cooking dinner tonight? Download Uber Eats and search for Toots. Check out Toots on Uber Eats today. You can order our full menu. Just download the Uber Eats app and search for the Toots nearest you to have it delivered fast and fresh to your door.
At Toots Restaurants, our quality has not changed.
Our portions have not changed.
Our products have not changed.
Good food and fun.
From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
Back at the Rutherford County Election Commission, and joined here as we are back as Pettis Reed joins us, Rutherford County Commissioner. And Pettis, this is not an election you have to sweat it out, do you?
Oh, no, these are the fun ones. Let everybody else take care of these sort of things.
Yeah. Yeah. How often do you come down every election to the commission?
You know, I've been doing this when I wasn't even a commissioner. I just enjoy it. You know, my grandfather was a commissioner, or he was a squire, and it just sort of got in the blood coming down here to do these sort of things. It used to be really fun on the square on election night. Everybody showed up here because it just really wasn't this type of coverage that y'all do, and they had the big election board over here in the courthouse, a big board, and you had a guy on a ladder that was up there, and he'd change the numbers and race them off, and everybody'd stand there and watch, and it was about like the state fair down here.
So did, everybody was kind of gathered around. Did you hear cheers and boos when, the
No, you
numbers
hear
might
a lot
change?
of oohs and ahs every now and
gotcha.
then. But, that was a long time ago, and I was a kid when all that was going on. But it's just sort of that sort of thing. I've always been interested in elections. And, as a child out there at Versailles where I lived, on election day, I would go down to the old store down there, and they'd pay me $0.25 to pass out election cards. It didn't matter what candidate, but they'd give you $0.25 and you pass out cards. So it was just fun. I just thought it was something interesting.
That got you involved in politics from the get-go. I've heard so many stories about how, the square was just alive on election night, and that's not really the case anymore because information is right at your fingertips.
Information's there. It's on your computer. It's on your phone. Everything's there. Everybody pretty well is informed about what's going on and what's happening. For somebody like me, I think it takes some of the fun out.
Yeah.
It really was. It takes some of the suspense. It takes some of the excitement because everybody gets there and everybody's wondering what's going to happen next. And the only thing we have suspense on right now is when all these boxes will come in. That's your suspense. When the boxes are all going to come in.
That's why the door is open here, and we'll see the flood of people starting to come by. You said something interesting, and I thought I'd get your take on this. The town of Smyrna had this referendum, and I was a bit surprised at the early voting totals on that. It was about 75% vote no, and you had an interesting perspective that I didn't really think about, that most people on a referendum, they're going to tap no.
That seems to be the nature of the animal, I think. Now, that's just my opinion. And my opinion, you can take that and a little over $1 and go get you a cup of coffee. But, we all the time up here in the county commission, we talk about different things when we're trying to work the budget. And I know people brought up last time about wheel tax and these sort of things. Well, when you go into these different taxes and whatever like that, usually it requires a referendum at some time. And every time they bring that up, I always say, we just well to forget that because people will not vote a tax on themselves. And if you go to a referendum, they're going to say no.
Of course.
It's just natural. Unless the referendum deals with something that they are really for.
Yeah. I hear when that comes up, the thing that I hear from longtime Rutherford Countyans is they go back to the wheel tax that was put on when they built Oakland and Riverdale, and they say, well, that tax never went away. Why would I vote for another?
You go way back to 1972.
Yeah.
And that was put on there, and then I think everybody had to understand that once those schools are paid for, we're through. Well, everybody understands that once you get a tax, it's hard for it to go away. I think the only thing that there's been very few things that have actually like that removed. It's just not something that happens.
So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the commission, because you've got I guess big decisions that have to be made between now and the end of the fiscal year, and end of June?
End of June we'll have to come up with our budget. The end of the budget will determine tax rate and all that sort of thing. We are actually working on budget right now. Budget begins full swing in usually March, April, May, June in particular, where they meet continually. We're sitting in a situation right now where last week we were at the legislature. We went down there with a fairly good delegation, I think. Commissioners, the chairman of our budget committee, the mayor was there, I was there, several other commissioners, as well as the director of our schools. And we were prepared to explain to a subcommittee down there why we're needing help, just asking for the same tools that our cities have to work with their financial situation, as well as Wilson County. And we wanted to make that presentation. We didn't get it. We didn't even get a vote to allow us to even present it. So there we sit, you feel sort of bad about that. And I really felt bad for Charlie Bond. Representative Charlie Bond was going to be the representative to carry it for us. In the Senate, Shane Reeves was going to carry it for us there. We didn't even get the opportunity to make that presentation. So it actually was, I guess you could say, rolled to another time, maybe this week, next week, or sometime in the future. But it makes you wonder, are we going to run into the same situation? But so we come back home.
If you roll it long enough, you won't be able to take it
absolutely.
up this year.
It's sort of like that tin can that you kick down the road. And here we are. We're needing something done now. We're in a situation where, okay, how do we pay for these things? So, we just got through approving a school out here on Baker Road that we'll have to pay for. We've got all our other schools. I was in Rockville Middle School just this week. And as I talked to the principal there, we just added on to Rockville Middle School last year. We moved in it in May of last year. We just finished all the additions. We spent $34 million last year adding on to Rockville Elementary, Rockville Middle School, and then one of the schools in Smyrna. So we would not have to deal with portables out there. Well, she was telling me as I went through the school with her there, she says, I'm to the point right now I can barely take one more student. And we can't add portables now because we made these additions.
Don't have any room for that.
Yeah. So, that's where we are in this county, that when we were talking about development over this county, we're to a point where we can't really add more students. We just don't have it. And
you can't turn them away, though, either.
You can't,
that's a state mandate, right?
You can't do that. But the thing is, we can't afford to build these schools without having some way to pay for them. The only thing we have to pay with is our property tax. And, I sit in a rural area out there. I know my people, and I see what they go through, and they accept this, that we have to do that to get our infrastructure and to handle these things. But they're to a point, especially those on fixed incomes, those who are living off their Social Security. It's tough. It's rough. And you hate to do that. You want to find other things you can do.
Well, Pettis, we're going to go over these early voting numbers again. And
okay, sir.
Just got news that former President Donald Trump wins the Republican primary in Tennessee and Joe Biden the Democratic primary. That is probably the easiest news to give. I could have done that yesterday.
That is a real surprise.
Yeah. So, but we've got some interesting numbers coming in. It's always good to chat with you.
All
Appreciate
right, sir.
it.
Anytime.
That is Pettis Reed joining us, Rutherford County Commissioner out in the Rockville, Versailles area, and God's country, right?
If you want to know the truth, I'm going to see how MTSU does with Liberty right now.
There you go. Yeah, that's on radio, and we've got this streaming. Thank you, Pettis.
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
it. Pettis Reed joining us here on our coverage here of Campaign 2024, our coverage on News Radio, WGNS, and WGNSradio.com. Big GTV, brought to you by Toots Good Food and Fun, McCabe Vision Center. Also, we've got Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home and Wilson Bank and Trust. We will be right back in just a moment and run over those early voting numbers. May have some other totals to give you. Who knows? We'll be right back.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
McCabe Vision Center.
I can see things that I couldn't see clearly before. I love it.
Dr. Craig McCabe, the eye doctor you hear on the radio.
And we should tell people that you opted to get the full range vision lenses so that you could have vision near, far, and in between without glasses. Tell us how your vision is now that you've had the cataract surgery.
I mean, I was so happy I actually had tears.
McCabe Vision Center.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Hello friends, Lenny Farmer with Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home. More than I can count, we have taken care of families who were totally caught off guard with the passing of a loved one. There are so many details to tie up. It really can be overwhelming. Again, more than I can count are the comments from families who have pre-planned and pre-funded their or their loved one's funeral, saying, "I'm so thankful we took care of this ahead of time. It would have been a financial hardship had we not. Let me help you pre-plan." Call me at 615-893-2422.
From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
All right, welcome back here to our coverage from the Rutherford County Election Commission on WGNSradio.com and Big G TV. Let's go over the early voting numbers as we have them, and then we have a special guest here to join. And here we go with the latest information in. And this is the early voting totals. We are going to really kind of forego the presidential primary information at this point. We're really focused in on the local races. And this one here, if I can get it to zoom correctly for me, that would be the assessor of property in the Republican primary. Incumbent Rob Mitchell with 65.97% of the vote. That's almost 66%. And Virgil Gammon, the challenger, 3,007 votes, or 33.7. Just quickly looking down the list, we went over these earlier, but here is School Board Zone 2. Stan Vaught with a 68% to 31% lead in School Board Zone 2. In Zone 3, Caleb Tidwell, the incumbent, over Tim Holden, the challenger, 64 to 35%. Claire Maxwell unopposed. And in Zone 6, Butch Vaughn. This is a seat that will be open, and Butch Vaughn with 1,013 votes, or 77% just about it, and Chase Williams with 306 votes. And also, as we go all the way down to the bottom, the Smyrna referendum, the noes have 1,817, or about 74%. The yes votes, 629, or 25%. So that is the early voting information that we have, and I'm joined here by the assessor of property, and that is Rob Mitchell, who has had to run a big campaign here this time. You were saying to Pettis just a second ago that you've run unopposed, or you've run opposed every time?
With the exception of once.
Okay.
And that was early on. I think it was in 2016.
When you see numbers and the voter turnout was almost 6% with the early voting information and stuff in, how do you look at that as a candidate when you see the early voting? Do you feel like that's, half of the votes that may be cast, 60%? What do you think?
I think traditionally it's been about half the votes that are cast in early voting. And statistically, because in the assessor's office we deal in statistics, traditionally the numbers in early voting, very little changes.
Well, this has definitely been a campaign that, there have, I guess, been things exchanged, and campaigning is a little different nowadays than it used to be, isn't it?
This is the ugliest campaign that I've been involved in. It's disappointing to me that it gets like that. These are my neighbors. We all want the same thing, which is the best for our community. And I think we can do that if we stop letting egos get in the way.
I wonder about just the common person out there, the 30-year-old that in 10 years may decide to run for public office and sees the challenge that candidates go through and those in elected positions go through, and the phone calls they get. I mean, I don't know if Butch Vaughn gets elected to the school board. Is he going to be ready? All of those calls that he's going to get, and I'm pretty sure that he is. But, I mean, it's still eye-opening, and there aren't a lot of people that want to get into that.
No, and when they see the amount of stress that their families are put through, that they would have to go through, it's unfair that we do that to people. It's not issues driven or ideas driven. It tends to go more toward personalities and drama, made up drama most of the time. And when you're an elected official and when you're in a political campaign, people can say things that absolutely aren't true, and there's very little that the candidate or the elected official can do about it because it's considered protected political speech.
I wonder your thoughts on, the fact that all of that goes on and how it affects you as a candidate. I mean, this is. I'm trying to figure out a way to say this tastefully. This is the Rutherford County Assessor of Property. I mean, it's not like you're running for state senate or you're running for a number of other offices. Yeah. I just wonder why your thoughts on why this was the race that it was.
People are stressed. There are a lot of challenges that the county faces, and we have to be in a position to accept that there will be honest differences of opinion, and not take it personal. And I just think that, some honest discussions about the direction of the county made some people upset, and they took it personally when they shouldn't have.
Do you think, and I think I know the answer to this, but do you believe most people think that you're the one who's raising their taxes?
A lot of people do. Most people can't even get the name of the office correct. They call it the tax assessor when it's the property assessor. The tax assessors are the county commissioners and the mayor. They're the ones that levy the taxes, that expend the money, and they figure out ways to raise the money to pay for the things that they believe their citizens want.
How do we educate people that, I don't know. What do we do?
It's really tough because it's almost a colloquialism, that people believe what they want to believe. So they believe that if the taxes are raised, it's a tax increase. If the tax rate is raised, they believe that in a reappraisal, when we simply equalize the values and bring everything to market, that we're trying to raise money, and we're actually not. It's revenue neutral at the county level. There may be some houses that will go up. There'll be some that will go down, and some that will stay the same. But the narrative that has been pushed by people who are, it's a shorthand. People like to do shorthands and stereotype things because it's easier that way. All politicians are crooked. It's a popular narrative when you're upset about the way government is going and you're frustrated because you don't feel like anybody's listening.
And it's also popular to blame the assessor of property when the tax rate goes up.
You're blaming the guy in the boiler room for the direction that the captain steered the ship.
But there is a property reassessment, so that's what your office is charged with doing, and I think it does get kind of confusing when that goes hand in hand with a so many cent property tax increase,
right.
And it's like these two things are separate, and then that's why your tax rate is where it is.
Right.
But it's not the assessment of the property that caused that.
No, it's not. This is the market value, and as market value changes, we assess it, we bring everything to market value, and we equalize the tax burden based upon the demand of that property. We'll probably be going to a more frequent cycle in the next couple of years because we're entering what's called a ratio year, which means that the state will figure out how much the market has moved away from the January 1st 2022 when we last reappraised. They'll determine that with us in about a week, and then that rate will be applied, and there'll be a reduction by statute of all tangible personal property and all state assessed property. And that will be a reduction in our assessments, which will mean that the base upon which the county commission levies a tax will be flat or lower once you subtract growth. I don't believe it will be lower than it was last year, but it's going to be a tighter year this year for everybody because the assessments the growth will have slowed down.
And will that information, those who will have to look at raising or lowering property taxes, they would know whether it's flat, whether it's lower, and I guess if it's lower, they've got a little more headroom, if you will.
That will be me.
That will not be you, yeah.
No, that will be me
okay.
that gives them that information.
But they're the ones that will do with that information,
right?
Whether to raise or lower or whatnot.
Right, and right now we've got $65 billion of real estate under management that our office watches, tracks, and values on a continuous basis. We have right at about $15.6 billion in assessment. So that's the amount that the county has to look at to levy a tax against. Shorthand for it's about $1.5 million per penny. So for every penny on the tax rate, there'll be about $1.5 million in revenue.
It's I'm glad someone is there that understands how to crunch numbers. that is not my forte. But Rob, with the early voting numbers in, about 66% of the vote to your challengers, 34% almost. I know that we still have a long way to go, but I'm sure you feel okay about the way things are now.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel okay, but I'm not going to count the goose cooked or the dog done.
Yeah. Well, Rob, I appreciate you spending a little time with us here tonight, and we appreciate that, and good luck on the rest of the night and the results that come in.
I appreciate that, and I'd like to remind everybody that they can use Smart Rutherford, which is a one-of-a-kind tool. No other jurisdiction in the entire country has this. They can use Alexa. They can open up their Alexa and say, Alexa, open Smart Rutherford. That will then ask you for your address. You give it your address. It will tell you where your children will go to school. It will tell you where you can get your car tags renewed. It will tell you the value of your home. It will tell you the assessed value of your home. It will also tell you who your county commissioner is. And it will tell you who your state representative is and your state senator is. All from your Alexa, all from your smartphone if you have one. Or you can do it with a widget that we have embedded on our website. It's called the After Hour Chat. We're the only community in the entire country that has that. And
for now.
For now. But and there should be more. But it's all part of letting people know that government is here to serve you, and getting the information that you pay for with your taxes should not be an earth-shattering event. It should be made as easy and transparent as possible. That's why having the Smart Rutherford that can be embedded in any county website, you can be in the Registry of Deeds office. You can be on her website, and you say, well, how much is my house valued at? Well, you could go to the assessor's website, or you could use Smart Rutherford from her website and find out that same information. So if you're on any county site, you'll be able to get the information you need.
Very good. Rob, again, thanks. If we can ever help the Assessor of Properties office, be sure to let us know.
I sure will. Thanks so much.
All right. That's Rob Mitchell joining us here from the Rutherford County Election Commission. A break. We'll be right back and go over those early voting numbers, and maybe some of those boxes are in here real soon. Stay tuned.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
McCabe Vision Center.
I can see things that I couldn't see clearly before. I love it.
Dr. Craig McCabe, the eye doctor you hear on the radio.
And we should tell people that you opted to get the full range vision lenses so that you could have vision near, far, and in between without glasses. Tell us how your vision is now that you've had the cataract surgery.
I mean, I was so happy I actually had tears.
McCabe Vision Center.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Hello friends, Lenny Farmer with Jennings and Ayers Funeral Home. More than I can count, we have taken care of families who were totally caught off guard with the passing of a loved one. There are so many details to tie up. It really can be overwhelming. Again, more than I can count are the comments from families who have pre-planned and pre-funded their or their loved one's funeral saying, "I'm so thankful we took care of this ahead of time. It would have been a financial hardship had we not. Let me help you pre-plan." Call me at 615-893-2422.
From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
Our coverage brought to you by Toots Good Food and Fun, Wilson Bank and Trust, McCabe Vision Center, and Jennings and Ayers Funeral Home. Brian Barrett here from the Rutherford County Election Commission offices, and thought we'd go over the early voting numbers, and we may dip in to get some of the CBS coverage here in just a few. So let's take a look. This is the early voting information on the referendum in the town of Smyrna. I'll get it centered there for you so you can see. And right now, it is a very interesting race here. If we can highlight that for you maybe. And let's see, do this and this. That brings up a tool here that will let me kind of highlight and show you the numbers if you're watching on Big G TV. And we'll go over those here as we go through the evening on WGNSradio.com as well. So, and of course, everything kind of pops up on the computer. We're going to do that later. So here we go. The no, which means voting no and against the referendum to do away with that office of the judge and also of the court clerk and do away with the courts in Smyrna. Voting no against that referendum, 1,817 or 74.28%. Voting yes, 629 or 25.7%. So that is kind of how that is looking right now. So the no would mean that the office would stay in its current state. The courts would stay in the current state. So let's kind of regroup and reset here and start out at the top here with a refresh. We'll go in and take a look at the totals. We haven't really touched on the presidential primary that much. Donald Trump received in early voting 7,363 votes, or 73.76%. Nikki Haley with 2,182 votes, or 21.8%, and the other candidates far behind. As we take a look at the assessor of property, and we were just on the air with Rob Mitchell talking about that. Rob Mitchell has 5,873 votes. That is 65.97%, so almost 66%. Virgil Gammon with 3,007 votes, or 33.78% of the vote. All right. Looks like some of my sharing information is not going out there for you, so we'll do the best we can and just hold on for the numbers here. Stan Vaught with 616 votes for school board. That is 68.52%. Let me just go ahead and bring this back up full screen, and we'll just leave me here reading the numbers since they're not showing that well. So this is just the early voting that's in now, okay? Caleb Tidwell in School Board Zone 3, 1,064 votes, or 64.6%. Tim Holden, the challenger. Tidwell, the incumbent, 579 votes. That's 35%. The other contested race would be for School Board Zone 6. And Butch Vaughn with 1,013 votes, or 77%, rounding up. And Chase Williams with 306 votes, or 23.16%. If you want to check out the delegates and go through those and see who's got what vote and what delegate, if that's of interest to you, I'd suggest WGNSradio.com. We've got a link there for you. You can check that out there. On the Democratic primary, Joe Biden with 2,004 votes, or 94.5%. There have been 36 write-ins and 80 uncommitted on that particular race and the early voting. And that really about does it in terms of going over the numbers here. And again, that town of Smyrna, the big race in that area in terms of a lot of interest, a lot of talk. 1,817 votes, 74% voting no. And on the referendum to change the charter, really, of the town and do away with the courts. So 1,817 no, 627 yes. That is the early voting information. We've had that early voting information here for, a good 45 minutes, and I would suspect that we may have a big dump of information coming here pretty soon. But that gives us an opportunity here. We're getting close to the top of the hour as well, and should have some information, some new data coming in, and we're going to check in with CBS News. They are going to give us an update on what's happening on the national scene. So let's check in there.
That range of about a third, sometimes a quarter of the vote for Nikki Haley is really consistent. And that, not coincidentally, has been about the percent of Republican voters in polling that have said they would prefer Donald Trump not be the nominee. She's clearly consolidated that part of the party, but of course, it's a minority of it, Major.
A minority of the party. So I'm just curious, Anthony, where are those 3 delegates that Nikki Haley has so far accumulated on this Super Tuesday evening?
Okay, so here's your delegates so far. And when you look at the delegate tracker, you've got 440 to 46. That's the big gap between Trump and Haley, and then the 12-15 needed to win. Now, Trump is obviously starting to close this gap right there, okay, and that's the difference. Now, Haley, obviously, she's got a real uphill climb. We don't expect her to catch Trump, but can she sort of hang on longer than a couple of weeks? That becomes the delegate math, Major.
Anthony Salvanto, thank you very much. And, of course, we will be back with you later as the evening goes on. And, of course, we'll be back with a quick break. We're going to go to a quick break with continuing coverage on the other side of that break of Super Tuesday as the results come in. I'm Major Garrett here in New York City. You are streaming America Decides.
Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Let's get started.
Finally, you can watch Mean Girls at home.
Well, this has only ever happened once before.
It hits like a bus. In a good way.
No one died.
5 out of 5 stars.
Everybody's watching. Because you're gorgeous. Mom, go make snacks.
You won't stop laughing.
Like right now or like ever?
Tina Fey hits every note perfectly.
Wow. Excuse me.
Dear God, woman. Mean Girls, rated PG-13. Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
It's a lot to be a caregiver and a daughter because you kind of have to take a step back. She's a tough chick. She doesn't want to ask for help, but I know she needs it. My mom feels I'm her daughter.
Hi, this is Wade Hayes of Toots Restaurants. My personal favorite menu item is our Danish baby back ribs. They're fall off the bone tender, very lean, got a delicious homemade sauce we put on it, and there's nobody serving ribs like these anywhere in Middle Tennessee.
Toots. Good food and fun since 1985.
At Toots Restaurants, our quality has not changed.
Our portions have not changed.
Our products have not changed.
Hello, this is Lenny Farmer with Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home. Often when a man or woman finish pre-planning their funerals with me, I hear, "We should have done this 10 years ago." Or, "I thought about doing this years ago, but just never got around to it." Seems that we often put off the inevitable for ourselves. As one wise pastor put it, it's never too late to do what's right. Why not mark down on your calendar to call me to talk about your funeral needs at 615-893-2422. It's never too late.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank & Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
This is Lenny Farmer with Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home. Did you know that you can plan your funeral in advance without actually paying for your funeral in advance? In other words, if it's not a convenient time to pay for your funeral, you can still choose your funeral items and we'll file them away for later. Let's consider that together. You make the decisions for yourself, and when that financial window opens up, it becomes an easier decision. Call me at 615-893-2422 and let's plan together.
From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
Back at the Rutherford County Election Commission offices, we just heard the courthouse clock tell us it's 8 o'clock. Right here from News Radio WGNS Murfreesboro. You're watching on WGNSradio.com on Big G TV or listening to the stream. We've got you covered. We're going to hit the airwaves on radio after the Middle Tennessee basketball game this evening and haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to catch up with what's going on the national scene. So I thought we would do that. As soon as we have new early voting information, we will get to it. But here is Major Garrett.
So far tonight, CBS News has projected former President Trump will win the North Carolina, Virginia, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Maine primaries. Former President Trump is also projected to win in Maine. If we didn't already mention that, CBS News projects President Biden will also win the state of Maine. And new this hour, CBS News can project Donald Trump and President Biden will both win their respective primaries in the state of Texas. A reminder, voters in 16 states, and don't forget, American Samoa will have their voices heard tonight. 15 of those states, Republican primaries are in a race that's down to the former President Donald Trump, the frontrunner, and his challenger, Nikki Haley. They are battling for 865 delegates tonight. All those are up for grabs. The total delegates, it's worth reminding you, that a Republican candidate needs to clinch the nomination, well, that number is 1,215. I want to begin this hour with CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, your friend and mine, Anthony Salvanta, who is following all of this at the data desk. Anthony, to the degree there is one so far, what is the narrative of Super Tuesday?
In 2 words, Donald Trump. In 3 words, Donald Trump winning. He's lighting up this map in red, adding to his delegate haul. He's at 473 to 46 in overall delegates. And let me zoom in on Texas here just to give you a sampling of what is going on here. All these counties lighting up in red are ones that Trump is winning. I've mentioned before that there's been in some of the states where Nikki Haley has performed relatively well. She's gotten a third, sometimes a quarter of the vote. But here in Texas, she's tracking at just 20%. Now, this is a state, a very conservative state, maybe not a surprise there. The only places where you look and you look a little bit closer for Nikki Haley is in and around, should she do better in and around cities, in Austin, in Houston, in San Antonio? Not so much, at least not yet, right? And the reason I point to those places is that throughout the night, Nikki Haley might make the argument that, well, she's winning a more college degree holding voter set. She's winning more independents in states where they can participate in these primaries. She'll make those arguments and say, well, she might be a better general election candidate. But so far, Republican primary voters not buying it, Major.
Alonto, thank you very much. We'll be checking back with you throughout the night. Donald Trump and Nikki Haley are battling it out, although, as Anthony just pointed out, it's not much of a battle tonight, but they're battling for delegates, and more than a third of them are up for grabs on this Super Tuesday in the GOP nominating contest. CBS News campaign reporters Olivia Rinaldi and Nydia Cavazos join me now. Olivia is at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. That's the head of the Trump campaign watch party, if you will. Nydia is with the Haley campaign in Charleston, South Carolina. Olivia, let's start with you. Festive atmosphere, I'm guessing, there in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, Major, perfect timing. Behind me, you can hear people celebrating in this ballroom all night as they have called state after state after state for Donald Trump. And chants of USA happening behind me now. It's been a very festive atmosphere. People, congressmen from all over the country, Congressman Byron Donalds, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, all sorts of people coming through this ballroom tonight to celebrate with Donald Trump as he's getting closer to clinching that nomination. As you mentioned, it's about 1,215 delegates that he's going to need. It looks like he is well on his way there. I just spoke with a campaign official earlier tonight who told me they're feeling quite good. There's no reason for them not to feel great, though, tonight. It seems that all their expectations have been met, perhaps exceeded, and Donald Trump seems like he's going to have a good night. We're expecting him to speak soon, shortly, where he's going to address his big win tonight, and it'll be something we're watching for, Major.
Nydia Cavazos, I want to go with you, and the contrast could not be more stark. Mar-a-Lago, boisterous, lighted, loud, enthusiastic. You're there. There is no watch party. It's not your fault that it's dark around you. It's nighttime after all. But, I mean, there's just nothing happening around the Haley campaign. Describe this evening for the Haley campaign and what path there might be forward.
That's exactly right, Major. There is no watch party, and it is a complete opposite picture of what we have at Mar-a-Lago. Now, we're talking about Charleston, South Carolina. It is pretty quiet here, and it's odd to be able to say that the day has been pretty calm and quiet on the Haley campaign side, and we never really got to say this on the campaign trail, but that's what it's been like today. And now we're talking about a presidential candidate, a hopeful presidential candidate who is completely out of the picture here today. You know, as far as her team, the official reason as to why there was no watch party is because this was supposed to be considered the travel day for her. She has been on a 10-day campaign swing all across the country, but so have us reporters who have been following her. And, you know, this was their official explanation. There is complete silence from her campaign tonight, aside from the previous campaign statement that we had received a couple of hours ago saying that there was a very festive mood at the Haley campaign, that there was a lot of food, there was also music, they were listening to some tunes, and we know that Haley is also really big on music. So this is sort of the environment that they were describing, but this is what we have here. It is nighttime, it is dark, and there's just silence from the campaign team. And we were to talk about the goals for Haley and her team. They were trying to be competitive in this race, and yet they never quite mentioned any sort of metrics by which they would define a successful night here at Super Tuesday. We asked her over and over, and in so many different ways. Haley has been asked throughout the campaign trail, across media appearances, but Haley has refused to provide any sort of metrics, and you know, she didn't necessarily commit to staying in the race past Super Tuesday. She had all along said, my focus is Super Tuesday, and even when we would ask, you know, can you define what competitive means to you, throughout the past couple of days, what I was able to note from Haley is a bit more of a combative response. She would spin the question back to reporters and say, well, it seems that you guys have always been the ones to define who is competitive in this race. When the media said that she finished in third place, Haley was saying she was competitive and it was a win to her.
Metrics for competitiveness and a path forward. Elusive tonight from the Haley campaign. Olivia Rinaldi and Nydia Cavazos, thank you very much. We have another update CBS News projects that former President Trump has won the Arkansas Republican primary. We can also project that President Biden has won Arkansas's Democratic primary. Catch a theme for the evening? Polls have just closed in Minnesota, and one of those states where some of the voters are staging a kind of protest vote, something akin to what happened a week ago in Michigan against President Biden in this Democratic primary. CBS News political reporter Aaron Navarro joins me now from Minneapolis. Aaron, you've been talking to those who are working on this uncommitted voting process in Minnesota and other states. What can you tell us?
That's right, Major. Good to be with you. Some states to watch, including Minnesota, where there has been that push, though a bit of a compressed timeline for people to cast that protest vote to President Biden's response to what's happening in Gaza.
Just wanted to pop back on and let you know that we're still awaiting some updated numbers. We have the early voting. It's 8:08. So I can tell you that there has been some considerable traffic now coming in to drop off the vote machines. So we should be getting some numbers soon. See one out there right now, and they're taking care of that business. So I would suspect that we will have some information, updated numbers to pass along to you here in just a moment. When we do, we will update things as well. But let's go back to CBS coverage, and we'll return here to the Rutherford County Election Commission here shortly.
How big the uncommitted vote ends up being in Minnesota or the other states.
And Aaron, I believe you have some sound from a voter or two that you met and talked to there.
That's right. In addition to the voters, I also chatted with the Democratic Party chair here in Minnesota, Ken Martin, to kind of get the perspective from the Democrat Biden world to the uncommitted vote and young voters saying they'll stay home. Take a listen to what he had to tell me.
I expect President Biden to, much like he has throughout the nation already in contest, to overwhelmingly win tonight, not only here in Minnesota, but throughout the nation. Look, he's received well over 86% on average of the vote in the states that he's already competed in. I think that will be true here in Minnesota. And again, I don't want to minimize the message that people are trying to send on a really complicated and important issue. But the reality is that when this becomes an existential choice between President Biden and Donald Trump, I have no doubt that those voters will vote for President Biden.
And that was the answer that the chair, Ken Martin, had for me, and that he thinks that younger voters will still come out to vote in November, even if nothing changes on Gaza, because there's issues like abortion, the economy, student loans that will galvanize these younger voters, which Biden needs if he wants to match the coalition that he had in 2020.
Coming to us from Minneapolis, Aaron Navarro, thank you so very much. The nominees for both parties, well, they could be decided very soon, and they're certainly on their way this evening. CBS News Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa joins me now. Robert, your impressions of the evening so far?
Great to be with you, Major. So far, as expected, former President Donald Trump picking up delegates across the country, and this is a crossroads for the Trump campaign. But at the same time, so many clouds ahead for the former president. He's about to be sitting in a courtroom in Lower Manhattan starting on March 25th, likely 6 weeks in New York City, just at a time when usually campaigns in his position would want to pivot toward the general election. Instead, he will be dealing with his legal hurdles. And I am hearing from sources close to Trump that he is meeting with major donors, thinking through his financial future, both politically and legally, has met with Elon Musk, the billionaire, in recent days on Sunday. And so you see Trump trying to consolidate himself politically tonight across the map, but he still faces all of these different issues across the board at the same time.
And Robert, it's often tempting on a night like this to focus on the night, but I'd like to get your perspective on the last year and a half, because after the midterms, there was a sense that former President Trump wasn't necessarily going to be as well positioned as we see him tonight. There was the Ron DeSantis, and there were, for a time, the Florida governor was running ahead of the former president. Talk to me about how Trump has gotten from there to where he finds himself tonight.
As I look at these exit polls tonight and these early returns, it's evident to me, Major, that the suburban vote is going to be so crucial across the country in 2024. And that while Trump is winning big tonight, will he win big in the suburbs come November as the nominee, the likely nominee? Will those Haley voters stay home? Will they come over to Trump eventually and join his coalition? Will they perhaps vote for President Joe Biden? And how could they be courted? You think about not only the suburbs of Boston tonight or the suburbs in Northern Virginia, but I always think about my hometown in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, those collar counties around Philadelphia, such a swing area, Pennsylvania, along with Michigan, Wisconsin. Will those suburban voters listen to Biden's overtures on issues like January 6th and democracy and say, we just can't go with Trump again? Or will Trump be able to say, you might not like what I did on January 6th, but I'm offering you an alternative on the border, on the economy? That's the tension right now in this campaign.
Robert Costa, as always, thank you very much. Abortion rights ended up taking center stage in the 2022 midterms and in some of the races we saw play out in 2023 in the wake of the Roe versus Wade being overturned by the Supreme Court. Reproductive rights have been in the spotlight again with a controversial ruling about IVF access in Alabama. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins me now here in Studio 57 in New York. Nancy, always great to see you. So this issue will be, and there is a telegraphing from the Biden campaign about this, we're even going to see it play out symbolically on Thursday night at the State of the Union.
We will. Not only the president and the first lady, but also congressional Democrats inviting fertility doctors, inviting IVF patients to the State of the Union to make the point that what we saw in Alabama is a natural consequence of reproductive rights being rolled back at the national level, that you can't predict what will happen when you peel back the federal right to an abortion, as we saw in the Dobbs decision. And so, we had a poll here at CBS News this weekend that showed that nearly 9 in 10 Americans believe that IVF should remain legal. There's almost no issue that gets 90%. And so this is a clear winner for them.
And
so they're going to go
big. Trying to scramble back away from that and say, no, we didn't mean that. That's not where we are. But still, this resonates.
Right. And there's no imminent threat to IVF at the national level. And yet, the point that the president is going to make and the point that these Democrats are making is you just don't know what's going to happen state to state when it comes to contraception, when it comes to birth control of all forms, when it comes to abortion, when, each state is allowed to make these decisions.
And this will be the first presidential election since the Dobbs decision.
Yes.
And there is a turnout pattern, as we mentioned a moment ago. 2022, 2023, this is a mover of voters. And the Biden campaign is counting on that to happen once again.
And it's not just a mover of Democratic voters. Let me tell you about one interesting number in our exit polling tonight. Among Virginia Republicans, when it comes to a national abortion ban, 34% favor a national abortion ban, 57% do not. These are Republicans saying they do not favor an abortion ban. Former President Trump just last week said maybe he'd be for one.
16 weeks.
And that is a challenging position to take in a general election when you've got independent voters, some Republican voters, and certainly Democratic voters who say they don't want to go in that direction.
And after State of the Union, do you expect, based on your conversations with the Biden-Harris re-election campaign, for this to be a Rose Garden campaign for re-election or a national, I'm out there, I'm touching voters, I'm going here and there and everywhere for the president?
I think that they recognize that this president does best, comes off best, when he's able to get out obviously in a controlled way. He is the president of the United States, but get out and actually be seen interacting with voters. They know that he needs to be seen interacting with voters because there are all kinds of questions about his vigor and his stamina and what kind of race he's going to run. So that needs to happen. Now, one of the nice things about being president of the United States is you can go get on your plane at Andrews Air Force Base in the morning. You can go hold a rally and you can get back that night and sleep in your own bed in the White House that night. So it's not as onerous as it might be for a challenger, but it'll be a mix. We'll see events at the White House and events out on the road as well.
Many advantages to being president, among them Air Force One. We have a projection. I told you they would be rolling throughout the evening. We have a projection now. Here's an update. CBS News, I'm waiting for the graphic. Bring it up, please. Projects that. Here we come. I'm promised it's on its way. There it is. President Donald Trump has won the Arkansas. Wait a minute. Arkansas? Didn't we do Arkansas? No, Alabama. Yes, it meant to say Alabama. It said Arkansas, so I read Arkansas. It's Alabama. We can also project that President Biden has won. I think we said this. I said this before. We'll say it again. Alabama primary on the Democratic side ahead. The world is also watching the result of this Super Tuesday. As they roll in, we'll check in with our Margaret Brennan about that next. You are streaming America Decides.
We'll have more coverage here from News Radio WGNS on Campaign 2024 in just a moment.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
McCabe Vision Center.
I can see things that I couldn't see clearly before. I love it.
Dr. Craig McCabe, the eye doctor you hear on the radio.
And we should tell people that you opted to get the full range vision lenses so that you could have vision near, far, and in between without glasses. Tell us how your vision is now that you've had the cataract surgery.
I mean, I was so happy I actually had tears.
McCabe Vision Center.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Hello friends, Lenny Farmer with Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home. More than I can count, we have taken care of families who were totally caught off guard with the passing of a loved one. There are so many details to tie up. It really can be overwhelming. Again, more than I can count are the comments from families who have pre-planned and pre-funded their or their loved one's funeral saying, "I'm so thankful we took care of this ahead of time. It would have been a financial hardship had we not. Let me help you pre-plan. Call me at 615-893-2422.
Hey, I'm Jack Hayes, here with my dad Nick and my granddad Pops.
Don't feel like cooking dinner tonight? Download Uber Eats and search for Toots. Check out Toots on Uber Eats today. You can order our full menu. Just download the Uber Eats app and search for the Toots nearest you to have it delivered fast and fresh to your door.
At Toots Restaurants, our quality has not changed.
Our portions have not changed.
Our products have not changed.
Good food and fun. From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
Well, welcome back to the Rutherford County Election Commission, 8:20 right now as you tune in on several different platforms. We're on WGNSradio.com with streaming audio. And, of course, we've got all kinds of things going on with Big G TV, working with that this year for the first time ever in the history of the station, trying some new things, seeing what we can bring to you. You've kind of got a look here from the Election Commission offices. Right back there is where all of the action is really happening. And you can see people scurrying around. And right now, there's a steady stream of cars. And what I'm going to do here, if I can do this without getting tangled up in all of my cables, I'm going to move the camera around so you can see what's going on here. So let's kind of take a look around to outside the door. And as you can see, it's a car right there. So this is, they block off the right in front, the parking spaces, and they will drive through. They've got cones. You can probably see one of the cones there. And see if I can zoom in there for you a little bit. So they're unloading all of the information from some of the different locations there. And we have seen here since 8 o'clock a very steady stream of folks coming in here this evening for that. So I'm sure we'll continue to have those pop through. There's another truck coming through. I saw a U-Haul just a moment ago, and actually getting some folks clapping. I mean, this is a very steady stream of vehicles coming in. So this is coming from each of the vote centers. Now, I had to ask a question a moment ago here, and if it's a question I have, maybe you have it. So if you look on the results, which we'll go through here in just a moment, we've given the early voting totals like 8 times now. So I'm just waiting on an update. But you will see vote centers, and there are 30 vote centers. But there are 33 precincts. Precincts are drawn, and there's a map here. I'm right next to it, of the voting precincts, and it's carved up as the county would draw lines for a political office or something of that nature. So those 33 precincts, within those 33 precincts, have 30 vote centers. But because you can't say, well, we've got all the Smyrna precincts in, we can go ahead and vote. That's the old day. We can, kind of get a better idea. Now with vote centers, maybe you live in Smyrna and you're voting on the referendum, but you work in Murfreesboro. Well, you can vote in Murfreesboro, and that's at a different vote center. Maybe you do your voting at Central Magnet School, and you live in Smyrna. And so that makes that very interesting on how all of that works. So see if we can check out and see if there's any additional information here. The number of vote centers, 0 of 30. We do have the early voting. So let me see if I can try my screen share again, and maybe that will work out here. It looks like it's still frozen up there, doesn't it? Let's see. Yep, it is definitely frozen up. So I will just come back to this scene, and we'll go with a run-through of the numbers. Rob Mitchell leading Virgil Gammon for the assessor of property in the Republican primary. There's no Democratic challenger there. 65, we'll say 66%. 5873, that's the number of Rob Mitchell votes. Virgil Gammon, 3,007, 33.78%. Just a quick run through. Stan Vault leading by almost 400 some odd points, 68% to 31% over Nicholas Rourke for School Board Zone 2. Caleb Tidwell with a 64-35 advantage, School Board Zone 3, and School Board Zone 6. Butch Vaughn with 77% of the vote to Chase Williams, 306 votes, or 23% of the vote. And the other that we've been keeping a very close eye on, the question on the referendum in Smyrna, no votes, 1817, or 74%. Yes votes, 629, or 25%. So right now, if that stands, about 75-25, okay? If that stands, the courts will remain in Smyrna. All right, now you've got an update. We, at 25 after 8, let's take another quick break here. And I know with this steady stream of cars, since I've shown you the pictures, and even since we've been on the last 10 or 15 minutes, we've seen, car after car come through, and the election commission workers here have been going out and gathering that information. I'm sure they're dumping it into a computer somewhere and working to get this information out to us. So we'll take a look at that here in just a couple of moments. Hopefully we'll have some new information to pass along. We can tell you on the statewide scene, Donald Trump and Joe Biden won across the state of Tennessee in their primaries. That is no surprise to anyone at this point. And we are going to go back to CBS News for some coverage in just a few as well. So stay with us as our coverage of Campaign 2024 continues. We're live at the Rutherford County Election Commission offices. I'm Brian Barrett. Back in a moment.
Hi, this is Wade Hayes of Toots Restaurants. My personal favorite menu item is our Danish baby back ribs. They're fall off the bone tender, very lean, got a delicious homemade sauce we put on it, and there's nobody serving ribs like these anywhere in Middle Tennessee.
Toots. Good food and fun since 1985.
At Toots Restaurants, our quality has not changed.
Our portions have not changed.
Our products have not changed.
Good food and fun.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
This is Lenny Farmer with Jennings and Ayers Funeral Home. Did you know that you can plan your funeral in advance without actually paying for your funeral in advance? In other words, if it's not a convenient time to pay for your funeral, you can still choose your funeral items and we'll file them away for later. Let's consider that together. You make the decisions for yourself, and when that financial window opens up, it becomes an easier decision. Call me at 615-893-2422 and let's plan together.
McCabe Vision Center.
I can see things that I couldn't see clearly before. I love it.
Dr. Craig McCabe, the eye doctor you hear on the radio.
And we should tell people that you opted to get the full range vision lenses so that you could have vision near, far, and in between without glasses. Tell us how your vision is now that you've had the cataract surgery.
I mean, I was so happy I actually had tears.
McCabe Vision Center.
From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
We are back here at the Election Commission offices, and just moments ago, we had Virgil Gammon come in and talk to Rob Mitchell, and those two were vying for the assessor of property position here in Rutherford County, and right now the early voting totals are the only ones we have, but incumbent Rob Mitchell, 66% of the vote to 33% for Virgil Gammon. So looks like Rob will be remaining there. Thank you very much. This is some brand new information. Looks like before we had about 1,200 votes, or 12,000 votes, I'm sorry. And this takes us up to 19,315. So some brand new info here, and let's see if this is actually on the summary or not. And it is. Okay, so we'll go from that on the summary. I really hate that the we had really planned to be able to let you see these on Big G TV as we went through, but the screen share is not working out here for us. So here we go. Let's run down the list for assessor of property. And this is, I'm not exactly sure how many precincts or vote centers this encompasses, but again, it's about 7,000 or so votes added here. Assessor of property, Rob Mitchell, 9,443 votes, or 66%, to Virgil Gammon's 33%, 47-14 in that. You haven't heard us talk about road superintendent tonight. Greg Brooks ran several years ago for that office, and I don't think he's run opposed since, honestly, and is unopposed here. School Board Zone 2, let's talk about the Rutherford County School Board for a moment. There have been some added votes here, and Stan Vaught is nearing 70% over Nicholas Rourke. It's 69% to 31%, 1427 for Vaught, and 623, make that 632 for Rourke. In the School Board Zone 3, incumbent Caleb Tidwell with 1,800 votes, that's 65%. Tim Holden with 945, or 35% of the vote. And in School Board Zone 6, Butch Vaughn is over 76% now, with 76.3% of the vote, 1,352 votes, to Chase Williams, 413 votes, or 23%. I'm going to forego all of the delegates. If you're interested in that, you can check WGNSradio.com. We've got a link to everything that we're reading here, and you'll be able to take a look at that. See what the referendum looks like now with, looks like about 19,000 plus votes in. 2,685 of those in Smyrna proper, and it is still 73 to 26% no to yes. So the no's have 1,970, the yes vote 715, and the no is you're voting no against changing the charter and doing away with the courts, including the office of judge and the court clerks and things of that nature. All right, so that is an update, the latest numbers that we have for you here from the Rutherford County Election Commission. Nothing has really changed a whole lot. I can tell you that there have been 11,830 early votes cast and 7,114 Election Day votes in the totals that we just gave you. So a total public count of 19,315 or 9.15% voter turnout. So I would say, typically what we've been seeing is early voting is about 50%, just kind of judging from where things are. So if that were the case, about 12,000, we're at 7,000 votes. So that was a big vote dump here that we just got in. And I'll see if I can't find that information out, and we'll continue to cover that and bring you that information once we have it. But thought we would get a national check here. CBS News has been keeping us updated on the national scene here on our election coverage here from News Radio WGNS. So let's go back and check in with CBS News.
Time that Marco dropped out from the race, his national polling numbers were in the low 20s. Trump's numbers were in the mid-30s, and we still didn't see a path to victory. And so when you look at the national polling numbers of Nikki, who's in the mid-teens, and Trump's in the 70s and 80s, they're very different.
There is no
candidates.
path.
Yeah.
Let's not sugarcoat this. There is no path for Nikki Haley to win the Republican nomination. Correct?
Even with a meteor.
So, you're not necessarily in the business of on television giving advice to candidates that you don't directly work for. If you were to give Nikki Haley advice strategically and for a future in the Republican Party as it is currently constituted, what would that advice be?
Unless she's trying to be get on a corporate board or and look, I'm not sure what her goal is.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No. That's a smart thing to do. If anyone's out there looking right now to hire someone, no. But the reality is, she is hurting herself, the Republican voters right now. A lot of these voters we're seeing the majority of these states. Tonight, I think it's 11 of the 15 states where Republicans are voting tonight are actually open, some version of an open primary, where Democrats, even registered Democrats, in a big chunk of them, can come out and vote in the Republican primary. That's a big chunk of her voters that you're seeing of these tiny numbers that she's getting. And so it's because the Republicans are like, look, this race is over.
So from Republican voters, it's not just no, it's heck no.
But some
variation of that.
Yeah.
Ashley Etienne, your perspective on tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question, why is Nikki Haley still in the race is a really important question. And, I sort of had this question is like, does she, after today, does she hold him or does she fold him? Does she, it's clear that she's still doing solidly well. She's continuing to expose Donald Trump's vulnerabilities, right, in terms of her numbers. But the question is, what does she do after today? Does she hold her voters? Does she keep them as leverage over the party? Does she try to, extract some, something out of the party? Does she continue to sort of make this case that Donald Trump is not a viable candidate in the general election and won't win the general election? So for me, that's what I think that's the question is, why is she still in this race? Is she trying to prove that, democracy is at stake here, that neither of these two guys should be the president? I also wonder, now this is a little far-fetched, but I just wonder if she might decide to run on the third-party ticket. That, to me, would be incredibly fascinating. She's found that you cannot beat Donald Trump conventionally, right? So do you
She's not the only one who's found that, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I know you guys know. I know you guys know.
But look, I think the Trump campaign is saying they're going to break 1,000 delegates tonight. They're confident of that. They are confident that they're going to seize the nomination within a week with the number of delegates. They're going to break the 1,200, which is going to be 5 days sooner than they seized the nomination in when he was the sitting president in 2020.
And to that point,
say what?
Nikki Haley will not be able to come to the Trump campaign and ask for something, have leverage. They're not going to pay attention to her, are they?
Yeah, well, they might. She better hope they don't.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Look, at the end of the day, the way she's dragging this on, diverting resources within the party, she has not won any friends with the base of the party at the RNC or within the Trump campaign, that's for sure.
Can I just say one thing, though?
Please.
Donald Trump is in trouble. Houston, you have a problem. He's only garnering 68% in these states. That 30% is becoming incredibly stubborn. He's underwater when it comes to fundraising. The RNC Joe Biden is out fundraising the RNC. The whole party has a problem that is not acknowledging. And so for Nikki Haley to stay in the race, she continues to sort of put that at the doorstep of the Republican Party to say, you have to acknowledge you have a problem. It is Donald Trump. What are you going to do about it?
Ashley, the Trump campaign would say this. All that's true. But when we talk to voters and we say immigration and inflation, they're with us. And you have all those structural things. We have the issues. We have the mentality.
Right. No, I mean, well, abortion is a gift that continues to give to the
Can it
Democratic
counteract
Party.
those other two?
It has so far. But here's the challenge. I think, what's going to be important is what Joe Biden does on Thursday.
From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election. Election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
Well, good evening, everybody. Joining now on WGNS Radio. We're going to get you up to date on the latest that is going on. So we are on radio, WGNS Radio, AM, FM. We're on WGNSradio.com and streaming on Big G TV as well from the Rutherford County Election Commission offices. Brian Barrett here with you. And our coverage is brought to you by Toots Good Food and Fun, Jennings and Ayers Funeral Home, along with McCabe Vision Center and Wilson Bank and Trust. This vote summary is coming to you with 11,830 early votes and Election Day votes of 7,114. That's 371 absentee paper ballots. So we have, I'm not exactly sure the number of vote centers are reporting in, but if typically it's 50-50, we are a good deal toward the way on Election Day votes, and we still have some lights coming out and passing through here, so we'll have some information to pass along to you on that as well as they update the numbers. But we have around 19,315 votes that we can tell you about. The assessor of property will remain Rob Mitchell. Right now, Rob Mitchell with 66% of the vote, 9,443 votes to Virgil Gammon's 4714. That's just 33% of the vote. We've got several school board, Rutherford County school board races, 4 of them, as a matter of fact. Only 3 are contested. And in those races, Stan Vaught with 69% of the vote, 1,427 votes in Zone 2. That's the seat of Coy Young. Coy has decided not to run for re-election. Stan Vaught with 69% of the vote to Nicholas Rourke's 31% of the vote. So it looks like Stan Vaught will be your new school board member come August. There is no primary, or there is no general election in that, as no Democrat qualified. For School Board Zone 3, Caleb Tidwell with 1,800 votes. He's the incumbent, being challenged by Tim Holden. You may remember the name Tim Holden. He was appointed to the seat for a short time until an election could take place, and Caleb Tidwell won that race. In this rematch, it looks like Caleb Tidwell is going to win once again. He's got 65% of the vote, 1,800 to 34% of the vote, 945 for Tim Holden. That's with 2,751 voters in that particular zone. In Zone 6, this has been the race that has really from the get-go been over 70%. And Butch Vaughn now has a 76% to 23% lead over Chase Williams in School Board Zone 6. Out of the 1,772 votes, Butch Vaughn has 1,352, and Chase Williams with 413. So that's a look at School Board. Again, there are pages and pages of delegates at large. If you want to take a look at those, I'd encourage you to go to WGNSradio.com. There are some folks who have like 0.85% of the vote, and it just gets into a lot of minutia, and that's something that for those that are interested, probably best just to kind of go through that on your own. I would like to mention in School Board Zone 3, the race that Caleb Tidwell is leading on the Republican side. There is a Democratic challenger, Tiffany Fee, and she has received 358 votes. So she will face off against the winner of the Tidwell-Holden race, and that's looking like Caleb Tidwell. At this point, that will be a primary race or a general election race in general election time, August. That's it. And brain's trying to catch up. And in the town of Smyrna, this has been an issue that we have kept a close eye on and had lots of conversations about, lots of news stories on the website. The question whether to do away really with the court system in Smyrna and have that transfer to Rutherford County. And right now, with 2,685 votes in the town of Smyrna for this referendum, the no's 73%, yes 26.6%. If that holds, that means the court system will stay just like it is. That's 1,970 votes no, 715 votes yes. All right, so that is the update. Again, that's with 11,800 plus early votes, which we've had those for a while, and Election Day votes of 7,114. And looks like we're going to be getting some new numbers coming up soon, I would think, because we still have a few vehicles dropping off here at the Election Commission. All right, with that said, we're going to take a quick time out and have more for you from the Rutherford County Election Commission offices. You're listening on WGNS Radio, WGNSradio.com, and on Big G TV. It is Campaign 2024. I'm Brian Barrett. Stay tuned. More to come.
Dr. Craig McCabe, the eye doctor you hear on the radio.
So tell us what it was like to go through the cataract surgery.
Oh, it wasn't bad at all. There was no soreness, no hurting. They made you feel comfortable. I mean, I can see things that I couldn't see clearly before. It's absolutely wonderful. I do it again. I love it.
McCabe Vision Center on Heritage Park Drive, just off Memorial behind SunTrust Bank.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank & Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Here's Dr. Craig McCabe at McCabe Vision Center.
Tell us what your vision was like before you had the cataract surgery done.
My eyes were just really out of whack, and I do a lot of hand embroidery. I got to the point where I couldn't even do my embroidery.
Are you now able to doing your embroidery?
Oh, yeah, I can go back and do what I was doing 30 years ago.
McCabe Vision Center on Heritage Park Drive behind SunTrust Bank.
Hey, I'm Jack Hayes, here with my dad Nick and my granddad Pops.
Don't feel like cooking dinner tonight? Download Uber Eats and search for Toots. Check out Toots on Uber Eats today. You can order our full menu. Just download the Uber Eats app and search for the Toots nearest you to have it delivered fast and fresh to your door.
At Toots Restaurants, our quality has not changed.
Our portions have not changed.
Our products have not changed.
Good food and fun.
Hello friends, Lenny Farmer with Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home. More than I can count, we have taken care of families who were totally caught off guard with the passing of a loved one. There are so many details to tie up. It really can be overwhelming. Again, more than I can count are the comments from families who have pre-planned and pre-funded their or their loved one's funeral saying, "I'm so thankful we took care of this ahead of time. It would have been a financial hardship had we not. Let me help you pre-plan." Call me at 615-893-2422.
From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
Welcome back to the Rutherford County Election Commission. It's about 8:48, and during that timeout, I did have the opportunity to find out how many vote centers that has been reported in this last batch of information, and the number is 13. So 13 of the 30 vote centers reported in that election day count that we have so far of 7114. So roughly about a third of the way there. There have been more cars coming through. I bet we'll get more information here in just a few. So nothing has really changed at this point. It's been a minute since we've had a chance to catch up on what's happening on the national scene with things. So I think it's a good time for us to head to CBS News headquarters and find out what's going on nationally. Stay with us. You're listening to Campaign 2024 from News Radio WGNS.
Let's start with easy. Who's attacking? Here's a deeper understanding of what's happening.
Well, we'll join them here in just a quick second. They're actually in a commercial break. So do that here in just a moment. Think we'd rather have some information here for you. So again, just a quick rundown of the races. Virgil Gammon trailing incumbent Rob Mitchell 94-43 to 47-14. That's 66% to 33% of the vote. And looks like we have a new projection from CBS, so let's go there.
Carolina for you. We are tracking Super Tuesday races across the country. And we're mere hours away from polls closing in California, Utah, and Alaska. Finn Gomez joins me now. Finn is our political director. Finn, I want to do a bit of memory lane for you and I. Yeah. You and I were both in Mar-a-Lago a couple of weeks after the, for Republicans, disappointing midterm elections 2022. What happened there? Former President Trump announced his bid for re-election. The atmosphere was not let in, but it wasn't super boisterous. It wasn't super enthused. And the sense was, maybe this isn't going to come to fruition for the former president. And yet here we stand tonight. He's on a clear, unobstructed path to the Republican nomination. A transformation.
Yeah, it's a complete split screen, Major, if you will. I mean, you look at that point, he was essentially, he was some people in his camp were begging him not to wait until he announces his run again for the White House. There was barely, I think the biggest MAGA celebrity, if you will, in that crowd was Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, right? And like you contrast that to where he is now, where he is essentially on the cusp of being.
Truman, Mar-a-Lago, endorsements coming in from all directions of the Republican Party on Capitol Hill and otherwise.
Right, he's back. He's back in control of the Republican Party.
One of the things you have told me consistently, and it's your perspective, is that this campaign 2024, from the Trump perspective, is being run differently, organized differently, and carried out differently. What do you mean by that?
They're more disciplined this time around.
Whether or not he is or not rhetorically, they are at the mechanical level.
The infrastructure of the Trump campaign is more disciplined. They're more playing in the traditional setting. Susie Wiles and Chris Lasavita, who run that campaign, have a tighter control of the operation. They
prioritize relationships at the state parties, delegate acquisition, and the like.
Delegates, exactly. Even several months ago, they told me that they expected to become the presumptive nominee, if you will, clinching that 12-15 by Georgia next week, and they're on pace essentially to potentially do that in a week, right? So they're from the endorsements on Capitol Hill to where he is now, to the ads and everything else to go in the traditional campaign, it's a contrast from 2016 when we both covered him there, and it was just this like very disorganized, group of misfits.
There are probably a couple of people attached to that 2016 campaign who wouldn't completely agree that they were disorganized misfits. They did claim the nomination. They did win the presidency, so they would have always that to point to. But strategically, they have been, from your vantage point, more disciplined. Talk to me about that in relationship to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, because that was the big threat to Trump back when we were in Mar-a-Lago right after the midterms.
DeSantis was leading in some polls at that point. He was the heir apparent. He was MAGA 2.0.
Theoretically.
Theoretically, that's where that's where the trajectory of the Republican Party
and
was
the Trump
going.
campaign said that may be true on paper, but wait till it begins.
And where's Ron DeSantis now? And where's Donald Trump now?
Right.
I mean, look at that, right?
And yet, Ashley Etienne brought this up just a few moments ago, and it's not untrue. It's not just a talking point, which it is, but it's true. The money advantage Biden. Structurally, that's not insignificant.
Big time.
How does Trump try to rebalance that account?
Like they got an uphill climb on that front. They do. I mean, they feel confident they can gain that back. They feel confident they can, as they have 8 months left, they have a foundation, they think, on when it comes to fundraising. They can start pulling in those reinforcements. However, there are some in the Trump campaign who said even recently that they weren't going to pull from the RNC, right? The RNC, but
pull money from the Republican
pull money
National
from the RNC to help Trump.
But that's being reassessed. They're going to have to pull some revenue from combine these campaigns, make them one, and pull money from the RNC toward the Trump direction.
From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
All right, we have got a new update for you. And this update from the Election Commission here gives us 28 of the 30 vote centers. So we've got a really good picture here of everything. First of all, I can tell you that there have been, in the 28 of the 30 vote centers, almost 15,000 votes cast on Election Day, with almost 12,000 walk-in and early voting. So right now, the voter turnout up to about almost 13% here of the registered voters here in Rutherford County. So let's take a breakdown of the contested races here in the Republican primary for assessor of property. Rob Mitchell now with 13,211 of the total votes in that race, 19,877. So that's about 66%. And challenger Virgil Gammon, 6,607, or 33% of the vote. Now, as we take a look at the school board races, I think it's pretty safe to say that with just a couple of vote centers to go, that looks like Stan Vaught will be the new school board member in Zone 2. Almost 68% of the vote, 1,752. Nicholas Rourke, the challenger, 829. So that's what it looks like in School Board Zone 2. That's the seat currently held by Coy Young, who decided not to run for re-election. In School Board Zone 3, Caleb Tidwell has received 2,466 of the 3,821, and that is 64%. Tim Holden, the challenger, with 1,345 votes, or 35%. Now, again, keep in mind, this is the only school board race that will have to have a general election, as Tiffany Fee is running on the Democratic side in Zone 3. She was unopposed. Also unopposed for school board in Zone 5 was Claire Maxwell, and there was no Democratic challenger, but she still received 1,450 votes. And School Board Zone 6, Butch Vaughn with 2,134 of the 2,936 votes cast. That is almost 73% against challenger Chase Williams, who came in with 794 votes, or 27%. I haven't mentioned this in a while. If you're looking on the totals that you see, you don't see you see a few write-ins and things of that nature for city school board, but there were no qualified candidates. The reason for that is they're all deciding to run as independents, and that will take place in August. So did not declare a party for any of the seats for the Murfreesboro School Board. The only Democratic candidates, other than, of course, the presidential primary, was the one I mentioned in School Board Zone 3, Tiffany Fee. Of the 489 votes cast in the Democratic primary and the 28 vote centers and early voting, she received 482 votes. And in the referendum in Smyrna, it has been a pretty big night for those who voted no against this referendum, the referendum that would change and eliminate, after this election cycle, the city court in Smyrna. Of the 3,632 votes, 2,598 were no. That's 71.5%. The yes votes just went over 1,034 voting yes, and that is about 28% of the vote. So again, all of that information that I just gave you was 28 of the 30 vote centers and early voting, and about 371 absentee. So right now, with just 2 more vote centers to go, the public vote count over 27,000, and it's about 13% of the vote. You can hear the courthouse clock doing its thing. It does every top of the hour, which reminds me, we'd like to let you know that you're listening to WGNS Murfreesboro, Smyrna. I'm Brian Barrett. Thanks for joining us here this evening on wherever you may be catching this. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible for you to hear the election coverage or watch the election coverage here tonight from the Election Commission. And we have been broadcasting on radio here for just a few moments after the Middle Tennessee basketball game this evening, but have been on throughout the night on WGNSradio.com and, of course, on our YouTube and channel Big G TV. So that's been going here throughout the evening as well. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, if we don't have the full picture here with the 2 vote centers, we will go back to some CBS News coverage of what's happening around the country as well. You were listening to Campaign 2024 from News Radio WGNS, and it's brought to you by Toots Good Food and Fun, Wilson Bank and Trust, Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home, along with McCabe Vision Center. Back in a moment.
This is Lenny Farmer with Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home. Did you know that you can plan your funeral in advance without actually paying for your funeral in advance? In other words, if it's not a convenient time to pay for your funeral, you can still choose your funeral items and we'll file them away for later. Let's consider that together. You make the decisions for yourself, and when that financial window opens up, it becomes an easier decision. Call me at 615-893-2422 and let's plan together.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Here's Dr. Craig McCabe at McCabe Vision Center.
Tell us what your vision was like before you had the cataract surgery done.
My eyes were just really out of whack, and I do a lot of hand embroidery. I got to the point where I couldn't even do my embroidery.
Are you now able to doing your embroidery?
Oh yeah, I can go back and do what I was doing 30 years ago.
McCabe Vision Center on Heritage Park Drive behind SunTrust Bank.
Hey, I'm Jack Hayes, here with my dad Nick and my granddad Pops.
Don't feel like cooking dinner tonight? Download Uber Eats and search for Toots. Check out Toots on Uber Eats today. You can order our full menu. Just download the Uber Eats app and search for the Toots nearest you to have it delivered fast and fresh to your door.
At Toots Restaurants, our quality has not changed.
Our portions have not changed.
Our products have not changed.
Good food and fun.
From News Radio WGNS, this is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
All right, welcome back. We're just getting all kinds of information in, and CBS News doing some interesting exit polling. And I thought this one was of particular interest. When asked the question, are you better off than you were 3 years ago? And the percentages of the changes of things. Overall prices have gone up 17% in the last 3 years. The cost of food is up 25% from 2021 to 2024. And gas prices are up 40% in that time frame. Credit card debt is almost up 50% at 46%. Home sales are down by 26%, and total wages are down by 2%. Some of the information that is kind of, fueling this year's election cycle. So more from CBS News as our coverage continues here, and we'll be back to give you a final wrap-up of the local totals here in just a few moments. We're, again, awaiting 2 vote centers. Then we will have the full picture, but right now there are really no close races. So what we gave you is really going to stand here. It's just what is the final total. So we'll get to that in just a few, but now back to CBS News for coverage of Campaign 2024.
This could be Haley's only win of the night in this tiny state. Trump picked up a win in Virginia, receiving at least 39 delegates there. CBS News can also project that Trump will win in the state of Tennessee. Let's take a look at the Democratic side. President Biden picked up a win in North Carolina, as well as in Minnesota. He did stave off of the uncommitted option, but it did get 15.5% of the vote. That uncommitted is a protest vote against Biden and his response to the Israel-Hamas war. Also, let's take a look now at the national map. Trump is already projected to win every other state that has closed tonight: Arkansas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Minnesota, and Maine. It's also a similar dominant story if we look at the Democratic map. President Joe Biden is facing little opposition, and he's sweeping every Super Tuesday state. Primaries are about amassing delegates. A Republican candidate needs 1,215 to clinch the nomination. So let's take a look at the race at this hour. To date, including some of tonight's delegates, Trump has now 626. Haley significantly behind with 53. And although President Trump cannot clinch the nomination tonight, it could happen as early as next week, March 12th. And you can bet he's going to claim victory tonight. All right, with me here is our powerhouse political team to discuss all of this. Analysis, context. Let's start with you, John Dickerson. Dominant wins by both of them tonight. But what does it say about Donald Trump?
The field is set, and Donald Trump is a lock in the Republican Party, which means it's the first time that a major American party in a democracy will nominate somebody who worked so hard to undermine democracy. Ever since he lost in the 2020 election, going all the way until this last weekend when he claimed he won that election, which is a lie that disenfranchises 81 million people. But this isn't just a nomination of a person. It's a nomination of a set of ideas, which we've seen over 8 years since Donald Trump has been on the scene, that basically the rule of law, democracy, facts are valid only when they work for Donald Trump. Now, there were hints of that, of course, in 2016, but the party has now decided that's what we're signing up for, which means the voters have this choice. Not just which candidate can handle the surprises of the job, the issues, but which of them believes in facts, that laws should be followed, and that democracy, free and fair elections are important. Those are 3 things that a president has to believe in to get anything done.
But what we saw tonight in the exit polls, what people are voting on, are issues like immigration and the economy. And Margaret Brennan, on those top issues, people do not think that Joe Biden is doing a good job.
No, they don't. And we've seen within his Democratic base a lack of consolidation that you would believe at this early stage he might have a better hold on if you compare it to Donald Trump, certainly with his very committed set of supporters that John was talking about there. But what we're seeing right now in this moment we're in is this sense of high anxiety, global instability, and how people feel affects what they say about the direction of the country, right? And 4 years ago this month, Donald Trump shut down the U.S. economy due to COVID. It led to the worst mass layoffs that we saw since the Great Recession. And yet, our CBS polling shows that people believe that the economy was doing better then. They feel more positive in hindsight about that period. It's almost as if they've forgotten. And in comparison to where they are now, they think that they might have been better off under Donald Trump. I mean, you look at that and you say, memory is a funny thing. Americans might have short memories there. But you also look at that and say...
Well, that's because we do all want to forget the pandemic.
Fair point. Yes. Fair point.
And you're thinking about what you're spending at the grocery store, which shows that that's the highest in 30 years. 11% higher, yeah.
Which that is a fact.
Yeah.
But again, facts aren't necessarily persuasive in this day and age. And a senior Fed official I recently spoke with sort of recalled that, saying there's a mismatch. You look at consumers continuing to spend despite these high prices. What they're doing and saying are not the same thing. But pointing to the anxiety caused by global instability, by the wars in Europe, but war in the Middle East, and the domestic crisis and the inability of lawmakers to solve the big problems facing us at this moment in time. These two candidates have 8 months to fix it.
Robert Costa, we call this America Decides because we do get to hear from voters, and we do get a sense of what they are thinking. And we have two nominees that most people actually don't want them to be the nominees. They say that. They actually think both of them are too old. And they also both have a number of weaknesses. Donald Trump has many weaknesses, and yet he has a stranglehold on the Republican Party.
Nora, that is so true, and we're doing all we can to listen to voters. And the stories we're hearing tonight tell us a lot about what's happening in this country, especially within the Republican Party. To build upon what John said and what Margaret said, there is a lot of concern inside the Republican Party about Trump's conduct in and around January 6th. And there's concern about many voters about how Trump handles issues like Ukraine and about what it would mean to have a second Trump presidency, another Trump term, when it comes to domestic policy and foreign policy. And CBS News exit polling shows that among Nikki Haley supporters, there's a fervent belief that Trump should not be the nominee, and that if he were to be the nominee, as this is all showing us tonight, they might not support him. In fact, in North Carolina, CBS News exit polling shows that about 80% of Nikki Haley supporters couldn't support the nominee. That is a warning sign for the Trump campaign. He's winning many delegates tonight, but there's an alarm bell going on among traditional Republicans.
So as we're waiting to hear from Donald Trump, who will speak shortly from Mar-a-Lago, does he need to unify the Republican Party, or are those people who voted for Nikki Haley not going to come home in November?
I've talked to sources at Mar-a-Lago tonight alongside former President Trump, and you can expect him tonight to pivot hard, not to make appeals to Nikki Haley or traditional Republicans, but hope that he can win them over by talking about the border, talking about the economy, hoping that the issues will bring Republicans together. The focus on President Biden will bring them together. But there are a lot of battle scars left over from January 6th and the Trump presidency. And those who are not in the Trump campaign say Trump has a lot of work to do, especially among suburban voters who say, look, we like Trump on policy, but do we really want to have that Trump presidency again?
Yeah. Ed O'Keefe, I'm going to get to you in just a minute because I know you have some new reporting about President Biden, but Caitlin Huey-Burns is there at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, and I know she has been talking to Trump's advisors. Tell us the mood there. What are you learning?
Good evening, Nora. It's good to be with you. Well, as you can see behind me, this is a packed ballroom, an enthusiastic crowd. Donald Trump's family just arrived, and we are expecting the former president to make remarks here soon. What's interesting about tonight is that you talk to campaign officials, and they say tonight is going exactly as planned. They were looking for a Super Tuesday sweep, not only to show a solidification of the Republican Party, but also to force out his last remaining rival, Nikki Haley. I asked a senior campaign campaign official if they were anticipating that Haley could win anywhere, and he told me, who? I think that answers your question. So they've not been thinking about Nikki Haley tonight, instead trying to project a general election matchup. And what's significant here, too, is they said their message is not going to change heading into the general election. However, winning the nomination, clinching the nomination, as they could do as early as next week, would allow them to have the mechanisms, the infrastructure of the RNC and the National Party.
Caitlin Huey-Burns in Mar-a-Lago. We will check back in with you. And Ed O'Keefe, I know you have been talking to advisors in the White House, the presidents. How are they looking at tonight?
Well, they're, like the rest of us, are looking at those Nikki Haley numbers and thinking this is great for them because it continues to show the former president's inability to pull the party together. As Bob said, 8 in 10 of her supporters in North Carolina, nearly 7 in 10 in Virginia, 7 in 10 out in California. And you think to yourself, why do they care about Virginia and California as well? Because ultimately it can help them in down-ballot congressional races and gubernatorial races in North Carolina if the Democratic Party can pull those people upset with Donald Trump away. But the other thing you're going to continue to hear from the Biden campaign in the coming days is how well prepared they are, at least financially, for this. $42 million raised in the 29 days of February, they report tonight. $2 million on Leap Day alone. An example of their belief that they have this huge structural advantage at a time when the former president is struggling not only to pay legal bills, but figure out how to raise money for his reelection campaign, Nora. And a lot of that money is going to go towards reminding people about the Donald Trump years, which goes to that question of what they do remember and don't. It'll go towards reminding them what Donald Trump, not the Donald Trump of their recollection, but the Donald Trump as the Biden campaign would like people to remember it.
And Robert, so much change too structurally. I mean, in the last presidential primary, Nikki Haley, if she had won, or any opponent had won in congressional district, they would have a much better shot at picking up delegates. But things changed in the past 4 years, right?
Oh, you really have to step back tonight if you're watching the numbers here on the screen. You say, well, Haley's getting 18% here, 20% here, 30%, 40%. But so many of these states are now winner take all. And that changes how the entire race unfolds. And you have Trump now knowing this and running a campaign in the primary, knowing that so many states are winner take all and that he could quickly wrap up this nomination. And this is part of a bigger story in the GOP. In the past 4 years, Trump has been out of power, but really also gaining power within the GOP, taking over state parties, making sure the RNC was in his image. And now tonight, he's able to push forward toward the nomination and toward the convention because of the way it's set up. Winner take all in so many places.
Let's take a look at Vermont, because that's one of the storylines we are covering tonight. The data just coming in, the latest vote tally, of course, shows that it is neck and neck in Vermont. Haley has now taken a slight lead with just more than, I can't see that far, Ed. Can you help me out?
49.1 to 47%. I mean, she's got a narrow lead there. Look,
this is 86% of the vote, and that's the number I was looking at.
Oh, yes. Well, look, it's all emblematic of the brand damage that's been done to the Republican Party across the Northeast and in New England especially. But at the end of the day, if all you're winning is Vermont and the District of Columbia, you're winning the GOP of yesteryear. It's over for her, most likely. And if this is the only place she can win, it's time to move on.
And let's look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Vermont has very few Republicans. We've been to Vermont. We've covered Senator Bernie Sanders a lot, a little bit different than most Republicans.
Governor.
There's sometimes more people at a Taylor Swift concert than voting in the Vermont Republican primary.
Yes. But what do we expect from Nikki Haley after tonight?
But she is not trying to make an argument to the base as much as she is to the rest of the country to be that alternative to Donald Trump. Should there be one of these situations that columnists get paid a lot of money to sketch out as complete hypotheticals when you have two elderly men competing with each other for this nomination, one of them facing 91 felony count indictments. The question marks around this head-to-head race, if it is indeed one, about how long and who is actually going to be able to persuade the electorate, given these big question marks, is out there. And she's been betting on that throughout of this, can somebody else make an argument for the party?
Mm-hmm. And what about that? What happens to Nikki Haley after tonight?
It's an extraordinary question, almost worthy of a great novel, because she has to make this choice in her life. Does she join the kind of Romney, Liz Cheney, anti-Trump group, which has a physical component? I mean, people are in danger who have done that. Yeah. But does she do that and stick with all the things she's been saying? Or does she come back into the fold which in a way underlines one of the key messages Trump has changed the Republican Party to believe in 8 years, which is basically everything's transactional. Stuff you say, you can reverse it tomorrow, it'll all be fine, even when it's about supposedly the most vital and important parts of character, morality, and politics. So which of those two paths will she choose? To be an independent operator or come back into the fold and try to be, if Donald Trump lets her, a part of this new extraordinary thing?
Does Donald Trump need Nikki Haley's voters in order to beat Joe Biden?
Yes.
Yeah.
He needs those voters.
Absolutely.
He might not necessarily put her on the ticket, though. I mean, we saw that with Reagan bringing Bush onto the ticket in 1980. Usually you sometimes bring your rival on. It's been done historically. But for Trump, it's about just plowing forward and believing he can get those voters over on the issues.
And also, he needs her voters, but she may not be the avenue towards getting them. I mean, they have issues with him that go deeper than anything another surrogate could fix, perhaps.
It's a big tell she's not delivering a speech tonight. She's watching these returns in the Charleston, South Carolina area. That tells you a lot about where she stands in this race.
All right, lots to discuss. And when we come back, what voters are telling us. Tonight, our election data desk hard at work analyzing the information from across the nation. That's when we come back.
Hair shedding? That's parenthood for you. My job got bigger. My hair got thinner. Aging? I see it in my hair. Support visibly thicker hair through life's changes with Nutrafol, the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand. Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
In just 1 year, I had over $900 in banking fees, and I had enough. I realized just how much money I could save. That's when I found Chime, and I signed up immediately. There's no overdraft fees, no monthly fees, and over 60,000 fee-free ATMs. Just by banking with Chime, I'm saving hundreds of dollars a year, and I'm using that extra money for my daughter's future. For a normal guy like me, I've given myself a small raise. Join me at Chime.com.
I'm Bass Reeves, Deputy U.S. Marshal. My job is to protect everyone. Go on, take your shot.
Lawman Bass Reeves. All episodes now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
The State of the Union. Live team coverage Thursday starting at 9 on CBS.
And take a look at this live look of former President Trump speaking at his Florida Residence and Country Club, Mar-a-Lago. We're going to bring you highlights as soon as we have them from Donald Trump. He's now picked up another win in the state of Massachusetts. That is Trump's 11th win tonight, dominating in the field over Nikki Haley. We also talked to voters after they cast their ballots. We also found that many of them feel angry about how things are going in this country. So let's bring in our CBS News Elections and Surveys Executive Director, Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, good to see you. I know you have been pouring through all of the numbers, and Trump has remade the Republican Party in his image. What do the numbers show tonight?
Indeed, good to see you, Nora. Let me start with this because it's just so important to his voter base. Did Joe Biden win legitimately in 2020? I'll show you a North Carolina exit poll, but it's typical of what we see nationwide. Republicans saying no, 3/4 of Republicans saying no, they don't think Joe Biden won legitimately. And what's important about this is that they have heard Donald Trump's unproven false claims about the 2020 election, and that leads into this. When we ask people, in this case North Carolina, is Donald Trump fit to be president, even if convicted of a crime? The Republican primary voters there are saying yes, he is. And the reason they feel that way is that they think that these charges against him are politically motivated, and they think that he had a legitimate claim to try to stay in office. And so that underpins why they say yes, even if he's convicted, Nora.
And Anthony, let me ask you about independents. We know they are a larger part of the electorate. More than 40% of the voters identify themselves as independents. Either of these candidates will have to win them in order to win in a general election. What are we hearing from them tonight?
So two things. One is, look at the way that this has shifted from 2020, where Joe Biden performed well, won independents, and now our latest CBS News national polling in which Trump is up among them. Part of that is the economy. That's a big part. Part of that is immigration. That's a big part of this. So this is obviously going to be a big part to watch. And one thing I will add quickly is watch the Nikki Haley vote tonight, because in the Republican primaries, where independents are coming in, they are supporting Nikki Haley in larger numbers. And she's going to argue, even though she's not on track to get the nomination, she's going to argue that that means Republicans are leaving votes on the table, that she would be able to pick up those voters that Donald Trump cannot, Nora.
Really interesting, Anthony Salvanto. That's why we love those exit polls. Thank you so much. Let's bring in our strategist tonight, Democratic strategist Joel Payne and Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez. Great to have both of you. Joel, let's talk first about President Biden. He is facing the lowest approval ratings since Jimmy Carter. At his term, he is underwater when it comes to immigration, the economy, dealing with foreign policy and the Israel-Hamas war. What do Democrats need to do to shore up his support?
Yeah, Nora, one thing I've learned not to do is fight with polls or pollsters. They are what they are. They don't look great for the president. I do think what he needs is a couple things. One, he needs pretty quick resolution of the situation in Gaza. That is putting a lot of stress and strain on his coalition. A lot of the fall off you see in a lot of public polls, even our CBS polls, in Biden's coalition is from traditional Democratic constituencies, young voters, voters of color. Obviously, we had the recent Michigan Democratic primary. We had a lot of Muslim American voters. Folks like that are making up the fall off in Biden's numbers. And so he's got to bring those folks home. He's really got to do a lot of base persuasion. He and his allies are going to have to lock down those folks before they go after independents and moderates to get back to sea level this time around.
Joel, thank you. Leslie, I want to ask you about, we talked about Joe Biden. He has weaknesses. Donald Trump has weaknesses, too, facing 91 indictments spread over 4 trials. He's been ordered to pay more than $500 million in civil judgments against him. Yet he has had some of the best weeks of his campaign so far, from the Supreme Court to really doing very well in all of these states tonight. What does he need to do tonight? Does he need to unify the party?
I think you're going to hear many Republicans hope that he does that he's magnanimous or is basically extending an olive branch to those disenchanted voters that have supported Haley to this point. If you look at her numbers, and we heard you talking about independents, a part of that is going to be Democrats who are crossing over undeclared into Republican primaries. But there is a highly conflicted group of particularly women in those suburban areas who do not like his character, the chaos surrounding him, or the criminal legal cases that he has against him. And that cross pressure is going to make it really difficult for him to gain that support unless he does some deliberate efforts to refocus them on the economy and on the border.
Those are both interesting points. And of course, we still have 8 months to go before November. Thanks to both of you. We also have CBS reporters spread across the country that are focusing on the key issues and the races in their areas on this Super Tuesday. So let's get a check-in, starting with CBS News political campaign reporter Torian Small. He's in North Carolina.
North Carolina was the only battleground state voting today, and party leaders tell me it's absolutely in play in November. Why? Because it's commonplace to see single-digit margins of victory in statewide races, just like Donald Trump's 2020 win here, where he beat Joe Biden by just over 1 percentage point. This is a purple state, and it's also known to split tickets. That same year, voters elected a Democrat, Roy Cooper, for governor, a Republican, Mark Robinson, for lieutenant governor, and a Democrat, Josh Stein, for attorney general. Stein and Robinson will now face off in a general election gubernatorial contest in November. So the takeaway here is the conventional wisdom of a down ballot effect on either side might not apply when North Carolinians tend to have a swing state of mind. With how Super Tuesday is going up in the Northeast, John Keller is in Boston.
Good evening. If there's any state voting tonight that ought to be fertile ground for Nikki Haley, it's Massachusetts, famous for electing moderate Republicans like former Governor Charlie Baker, a prominent never-Trumper who now heads the NCAA. Haley staged her big local rally this past weekend in Needham, a Boston suburb that was Baker's birthplace. But it's telling that Baker was essentially chased out of the Massachusetts GOP by Trump supporters for whom any Trump critic is a rhino, Republican in name only. Haley faces the same fate tonight in a state where these days the soil can't seem to sustain moderate Republicanism any better than anywhere else. Now it's over to Caroline Cummings in Minneapolis.
Building off momentum in Michigan, there was also an effort in Minnesota to get people to vote uncommitted instead of President Joe Biden as a way to protest the Israel-Hamas war and put political pressure on the White House to call for a permanent ceasefire. But unlike Michigan, activists here tell me that they didn't set any turnout targets, so any votes they would consider a win. But the real victory, they say, is if President Biden gets the message, and they hope a national effort will deliver it to him loud and clear. My colleague Jack Fink in Dallas has an update from Texas.
Thanks, Caroline. Our big race is for U.S. Senate. North Texas Congressman Colin Allred leads a crowded Democratic primary in the polls and may win outright and avoid a runoff. His biggest competitor is State Senator Roland Gutierrez of San Antonio, a progressive Democrat who was the most outspoken state lawmaker for gun restrictions after the tragedy in Uvalde. Allred is more moderate, and he's raised more money than anyone, including Republican incumbent Ted Cruz, who's seeking a third term. While Cruz won a very close race in 2018, analysts say it's going to be an uphill climb for a Democrat to unseat him this year. Border security is the top issue in Texas, and every Republican is running on it this year, but not Democrats. Now let's check in with Gary Dietrich in Sacramento with a look at what's happening in California.
Here are two significant items of note. First, in the presidential race, where the California GOP changed its delegate assignment rules last summer, such that any candidate that gets 50% of the vote plus one takes all of the state's GOP delegates. That thought to benefit Donald Trump and also place the California Republican Party in an even more prominent role nationally. And secondly, our U.S. Senate race, where to the surprise of many, a poll last Friday showed that Republican Steve Garvey had taken the lead in the race. How does that happen, you ask, in a deep blue state? Well, it's because his chief Democratic rival, Congressman Adam Schiff, has spent heavily promoting Garvey's candidacy to the Republican base. Why? Well, because Schiff believes it'll be much easier to defeat a Republican come November. Nora?
Thank you very much. Let's take one more look at the map tonight, because Trump has won 11 states at this hour and is expected to do well. That's tight in Vermont, but other than that, he is expected to almost have a clean sweep tonight. And John Dickerson, that's virtually unprecedented.
He's dominated not only this race, which has basically been his since the beginning, but think about what he's done to the Republican Party since 2015. He has remade an entire party, made not only changed positions on things like trade, support for Russia, personal character as either a help or a hindrance to a nomination. He's changed all of these individual ideas within the Republican Party, but he's now made support for him on a number of loyalty tests the sign of whether you're a good Republican or not. That dominance over a party is something that's extraordinary and that we've never seen before.
And he's about to become dominant over the Republican National Committee. Ronna McDaniel will be stepping down at the end of the week. He will install his own candidate, including his daughter-in-law. They have said they will not use those RNC funds for legal bills, but that could always change. And just because Donald Trump says something doesn't mean that that's always true. He follows through on that. So what does that say then about Donald Trump's remaking of the Republican Party?
Well, I think, it says it's thorough, but going back to Bob's earlier point about all of these changes in these individual states, making them winner take all, that in part was the result of spade work done by the Trump forces, which showed that he knew how to do that delicate inside game work, which in 2016 he didn't do. He just blundered in and won everything. But in this case, he's got some tactical success, and that's got to be something that the Biden people worry about.
And yet they've done a poor job of raising money this far. They've had trouble. Trump has had trouble raising money, correct?
And behind the scenes, Trump is meeting with major donors, some of the richest people in the world, including Elon Musk in recent days. CBS News has confirmed he had a private meeting with Musk. He's talking to donors. And here's the thing about the Trump campaign right now. He controls the party, as John said, but he does not control his time. In just weeks, he is going to have to sit in a New York courtroom as that criminal hush money payments to a porn star. That trial begins March 25th.
All right.
Which has only helped him in fundraising
All
to
right.
date.
Yeah, coming up, we're going to talk about the issues that matter most to voters and could decide this election. You're watching Super Tuesday right here on CBS.
See up there.
Bad chick, I could be a fantasy. I could tell you got beat energy.
Holly, you got this?
Yes.
That's some serious Big Dwayne energy.
Right back at you.
I meant him.
Nice fanny pack. Zella. Great taste, zero sugar, Big Dwayne energy.
It's a lot to be a caregiver and a daughter because you kind of have to take a step back. She's a tough chick. She doesn't want to ask for help, but I know she needs it. My mom feels I'm her daughter and I should be able to do for her. I'm not sure if my mom notices that this is really hard on me. Getting some help would be a great relief.
From companions to helpers to caregivers. Find all the senior care you need at care.com.
I'm Brian Barrett from the Rutherford County Election Commission offices, and we're going to get some new numbers here very, very shortly. The last car came in, and we think we're going to have that here very, very shortly. Thanks for listening in to our coverage here on News Radio, WGNS, and our election night coverage is brought to you in part by Toots Good Food and Fun, Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home, McCabe Vision Center, and Wilson Bank and Trust. We're going to take a timeout, come back, and hopefully give you the final results on the election voting here in this Super Tuesday in Rutherford County. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Wade Hayes of Toots Restaurants. My personal favorite menu item is our Danish baby back ribs. They're fall off the bone tender, very lean, got a delicious homemade sauce we put on it, and there's nobody serving ribs like these anywhere in Middle Tennessee.
Toots. Good food and fun since 1985.
At Toots Restaurants, our quality has not changed.
Our portions have not changed.
Our products have not changed.
For more than 36 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been proud to serve communities all across Tennessee. As an independent local bank, we provide banking products competitive with large banks, but delivered with personalized local service. Wilson Bank and Trust has been community-focused since 1987 and looks forward to many more. Discover the power of local community banking that truly makes a difference. Give us a call or come on by any of our local 30 locations or visit wilsonbank.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
This is Lenny Farmer with Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home. Did you know that you can plan your funeral in advance without actually paying for your funeral in advance? In other words, if it's not a convenient time to pay for your funeral, you can still choose your funeral items and we'll file them away for later. Let's consider that together. You make the decisions for yourself, and when that financial window opens up, it becomes an easier decision. Call me at 615-893-2422 and let's plan together.
Dr. Craig McCabe, the eye doctor you hear on the radio.
So tell us what it was like to go through the cataract surgery.
Oh, it wasn't bad at all. There was no soreness, no hurting. They made you feel comfortable. I mean, I can see things that I couldn't see clearly before. It's absolutely wonderful. I do it again. I love it.
McCabe Vision Center on Heritage Park Drive, just off Memorial behind SunTrust Bank.
From News
For
Radio
more than 36 years, Wilson Bank.
This is Rutherford County's most complete election coverage. Here's Brian Barrett.
All right, we are back, and just hot off the presses in my hand here, we have got the final results here. So we will go through this step by step. If you're listening on WGNS on radio or on our website, or if you're watching on Big G TV, this is it, okay? This is the final 30 precincts, or I'm sorry, 30 vote centers. Let me get my verbiage right. And this is all of the early voting and absentee. So the public vote count is officially 29,023. That represents about 13.7% of the 211,000 almost registered voters here in Rutherford County. And let's kind of start from the back, why don't we? Because this was one of the huge issues that especially North Rutherford County and the town of Smyrna were dealing with. And it's a pretty overwhelming victory for those voting against the referendum. The referendum failed 71% to 28%, 28.5%. So the entire town of Smyrna, there were 4,661 votes cast, and of that, 3,329. I misspoke here. 4,661, and of that, the no votes, 3,329. That's 71% of the vote. And those voting yes for the amendment, which would have, at the end of this current cycle for the judge and town clerk, town court clerk, at the end of their current, I'm losing the verbiage here, but at the end of this particular session, they would not have an election. Okay, they would abolish the courts. Basically, there in Smyrna, Rutherford County would take that over. But again, that has failed 71 to 28%. So, on the Democratic primary, just for those who want to know, School Board Zone 3, Tiffany Fee ran unopposed, and of the 503 votes cast, she got 496 of those on the Democratic side. Working from the back front. Again, on the delegates, I'm going to let you take a look at that. We've got a link on our website to the Rutherford County Election Commission, which is where we get this printed out information. It's helpful to have this in hand to kind of see it instead of having to go through tabs. But you can take a look at that if you're interested in looking at the delegates. In the presidential race on the Republican side, Donald Trump received 76% of the vote. Nikki Haley with 20% of the vote. So 18,251 for Trump, 4815 for Nikki Haley, and others were distant in that. Of course, Donald Trump winning at about that percentage across the state of Tennessee. For assessor of property, there were 21,100 votes cast, and of that, Rob Mitchell garnered 14,068. That's 67% of the vote to challenger Virgil Gammon's 6969. Again, that's 33% of the vote. So Rob Mitchell will remain the assessor of property. He took that office back in 2012 and has been the property assessor since. He did mention that he's only had one race where he ran unopposed, and this year no different, having opposition. School board. Let's talk about the Rutherford County School Board in Zone 2. Stan Vaught will be your new school board member for Zone 2. That is the seat currently held by Coy Young. Stan received 1,840 votes. That's 66% of the vote. To Nicholas Rourke's 923 votes, which is 33%. All right, so 66 to 33%. There's some fractions in there, so if it doesn't add 100, you know we're close, okay? So Stan Vaught is the new school board member. He will take office after the general election in August, sometime after August, but he has no Democratic opponent. That is not the case for School Board Zone 3. I remember just a second ago I mentioned Tiffany Fee. Tiffany will be running against Caleb Tidwell. He's the Republican incumbent and beat off a challenge from Tim Holden. 3,948 votes in this School Board Zone 3. He received 2,548 of those. That's 64.5%. To Tim Holden's 1,390, that's 35% of the vote. And it wound up the only one over 70%. Those guys were, 65, 66%. Butch Vaughn came in with 73% of the vote, just about it, 72.69. 2,153 votes cast for Butch Vaughn of the total 2,962. Chase Williams with 801 votes. That's 27% of the vote. So that is a look at the total numbers that we have. Just to give you a brief recap, Rob Mitchell will be the assessor of property going forward here. Stan Vaught, School Board Zone 2. Caleb Tidwell will face Tiffany Fee in August for School Board Zone 3. And Butch Vaughn is the new school board member in Zone 6. Claire Maxwell ran unopposed, by the way. And if you remember when you were voting or looked at a sample ballot, you saw that there were no qualified candidates for Murfreesboro School Board. All of those running for that are running independent, so they will run in August. Well, there you go. Complete election coverage. Can't thank our friends here at the Rutherford County Election Commission enough. They have been a great host. I've been here for a long time today, setting up some new equipment to make this work here this evening on multiple platforms. And we hope you enjoyed our coverage. None of it would be possible without the help of our sponsors, Wilson Bank and Trust, McCabe Vision Center, also Toots Good Food and Fun, and Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home. So that is going to wrap up our coverage from the Rutherford County Election Commission. Thank you so much for listening in or watching here tonight. Got to work on that old verbiage, don't I? And we will be back with more here on WGNS. Watch the website. We'll have lots of information there for you when you need it. That's going to wrap up here from the Rutherford County Election Commission. I'm Brian Barrett. So long, and thanks for watching here or listening on WGNS, AM, FM, online, WGNSradio.com, as well as on all of our social media channels. We've been in lots of those places here, haven't we, tonight? So thanks again for joining us. We're going to work to get back into our regular programming here at 9:44 on WGNS Radio first. All right, now we are back on WGNS Radio to regular programming, and we're going to work here on the stream to get you set first and signing off